Chapter 91. New Discovery of Transfiguration. On the afternoon of October 10, Yang Tian, who had been in Hogwarts for a month, came to Professor McGonagall's office, which he was very familiar with. During this period, Professor McGonagall often used his spare time to teach Yang Tian Transfiguration, and the results were very significant. Look, while Professor McGonagall hasn't come back yet, Yang Tian has been patiently turning a crystal cup into a fire ash snake. As soon as the spell was successfully cast, Yang Tian decisively cast a restoration spell, and repeated it over and over again. Yang Tian, you have mastered the transformation of non-living things into living things very well, and you are now studying the transformation of living things into non-living things. But why do you still put more energy into the practice of the transformation of non-living things into living things? Are you very interested in this part? Professor McGonagall, who had just walked in, asked after seeing Yang Tian's practice. Yang Tian, who was immersed in practice, was awakened by Professor McGonagall's words. He quickly stood up and greeted Professor McGonagall before saying with a hint of hesitation, "Although I have become proficient in transforming non-living things into living things, I cannot restore the abilities of some living things." As he spoke, Yang Tian transformed the crystal cup into a fire ash snake again, and said distressedly, "Look, it's just for show, it doesn't emit a blazing light, it can't absorb flames, and it can't ignite anything." Hearing Yang Tian's words, Professor McGonagall frowned and said, "Yang Tian, I thought you had a clear understanding of transfiguration, but now it seems that you don't. You have to understand, kid, we are transforming objects, not creating life. Ability is based on the continuation of life, and it is the perfect unity of life, soul, and body. Just like magic, with the same body structure, wizards can perform it, but muggles cannot." "Professor, I don't quite agree with your point of view. In my opinion, this is not an ability, but a function. It is the inevitable result of the perfect presentation of the internal structure." As Yang Tian argued, he turned the crystal cup into a large transparent fish tank, poured clean water into it, and then turned a feather pen into a fire-breathing fish. The transformed fire-breathing fish was swimming happily in the fish tank, looking very happy. Yang Tian did not use any magic, but simply tapped the wall of the fish tank several times with his wand. The fire-breathing fish swam a few times as if it was frightened, and then a cluster of blue flames spurted out of its mouth, which was very gorgeous. Like this, although it is a transformed fire-breathing fish, if every detail of it is perfectly presented, such as cells, bones, matter, etc., then it is inevitable that it has the ability to breathe fire. Professor McGonagall's eyes were wide open at this point, and she looked incredulous. There were two aspects of Yang Tian's demonstration that shocked her. One was that the fish had the ability to breathe fire, not through a wizard's magical simulation, but rather through a functional closed loop formed within the fish's body. The second is that the transformed fish can change its state autonomously due to the external environment without being controlled by the wizard's magic power. Just like now, because the wall of the fish tank was knocked, the fish changed from swimming freely to being frightened. In Professor McGonagall's opinion, these 2 points are manifestations of life and should not appear in transfiguration under any circumstances. "Can you tell me how you did it?" Professor McGonagall asked in shock and anticipation. "Of course, I found that the texture of the 6 points under the gills of this fire-breathing fish is different from that of other positions. After calculating with the formula," Yang Tian began to explain incessantly. After hearing Yang Tian's explanation, Professor McGonagall's eyes became brighter and brighter, and she couldn't help but ask, "What's the matter with the fish's stress response?" "In fact, I prefer to understand that this is the fish's body's nervous reaction when it is vibrated by water, similar to the knee-jerk reaction. This is directly related to the texture changes at 4 points in a line on the fish's spine." Calculated using a formula, Yang Tian began to explain again. In fact, Yang Tian didn't say everything. He just showed Professor McGonagall a few points on the fate line using the method of transfiguration. This matter is quite interesting. Just a few days ago, Yang Tian, who had mastered the art of transforming non-living things into living things, had a sudden idea and moved the lifeline into the transformed living thing. As a result, a magical thing happened. After the transformation, the creatures were able to exert almost all of their functions, just like the fire-breathing technique of the fire-breathing fish, the soil-eating technique of the Carib-blind snake, and the swimming technique of the short-nosed sea snake. Of course Yang Tian knew that these things should not happen in transfiguration, but it actually happened. This discovery made him inexplicably excited. But when Yang Tian conducted further experiments, problems arose. When experimenting with the evil bird, the bowtruckle, the fire ash snake, the niffler, etc., although some functions could be barely restored through the implantation of lifelines, the effect was drastically reduced, even close to zero. For example, the transformed nifflers were unable to detect the hidden galleons and could only collect the ones that were on the surface. The heat released by the transformed fire ash snake was not enough to ignite objects, and it couldn't even serve as a warm pack in Yang Tian's hand. What's even more outrageous is that in the process of swallowing the flames, the transformed fire ash snake actually ignited itself due to the high temperature of the flames, and turned into a damaged appearance before the transformation. Yang Tian racked his brains but couldn't figure out what the problem was. He could only practice more in his spare time in the hope of discovering the secret. Now, his practice has aroused the interest of Professor McGonagall, who keeps asking about the details, and Yang Tian also urgently needs an expert in transfiguration to give him new ideas. So, they ran towards each other and soon they were chatting enthusiastically. Professor McGonagall was indeed a master of transfiguration. With Yang Tian's explanation, she quickly mastered the improved version of the transfiguration fire fish, which made her even more excited. Of course, this does not mean that Professor McGonagall has mastered the fate of the fire-breathing fish. The fate is the common feature of thousands of the same species. It seems simple, but in fact it is ever-changing. Any slight difference will result in different individuals. And what Professor McGonagall possessed was a unique individual of her transforming fire-breathing fish model. Professor McGonagall said excitedly, "Merlin, Yang Tian, I have to say that you have discovered a great secret. It can even be said that you have created a new history of transfiguration. You will be remembered." Yang Tian said helplessly, "But I can only use it on transforming ordinary creatures at present, and I can't achieve the same effect after transforming magical creatures." Mag smiled and consoled him, "This is normal, Yang Tian. Any new discovery or new research direction requires continuous follow-up research and accumulation. How can it be achieved overnight?" After thinking for a while, Professor McGonagall said, "Yang Tian, your talent in transfiguration is beyond doubt. Starting this week, you will join my Transfiguration Club. There will be excellent seniors studying with you and promoting each other. I believe that your transfiguration will improve by leaps and bounds, and you will soon solve your doubts." Yang Tian nodded his head when he heard this. Unconsciously, his interest in transfiguration became extremely strong. This seemed to be one of the intersections of Eastern and Western magic. His advantage in this area was unparalleled. Chapter 92. Seeing Yang Tian being so well behaved and obedient, Professor McGonagall nodded with satisfaction, and then continued, "In addition, you should write a paper on the improved version of the fire-breathing fish transfiguration as soon as possible, and then publish it in the magazine Transfiguration Today. This will bring you unparalleled fame." Yang Tian was embarrassed when he heard this and said, "Professor, I just improved the wolfsbane potion before the start of the semester and gained quite a reputation. If I publish a paper on the improved version of the fire-breathing fish transformation technique now, wouldn't it be a bit too ostentatious? This kind of academic reputation doesn't seem to mean much to me." Professor McGonagall did not blame Yang Tian upon hearing this. Instead, she smiled and explained, "Your worry is unnecessary. Fame in the academic world is the best compliment for wizards. You should never have too much of this kind of fame. Because those who can publish truly valuable academic papers are all people who have been deeply involved in the academic field for many years and are dedicated to research and invention. This will gain the friendship and respect of the vast majority of wizards." After a pause, Professor McGonagall continued, "And after publishing this paper, the voices that previously questioned your use of family power to improve the wolfsbane potion will disappear. After all, the Fry family is not good at transfiguration. Then you will have many opportunities to exchange letters with the Master of Transfiguration and the Master of Potions. Of course, there will also be many elites in other fields who will be willing to get to know you and communicate with you. Do you understand the benefits?" Yang Tian was immediately overjoyed. He had never been involved in the academic circle in his previous life, so he naturally didn't understand the twists and turns involved. But after a little guidance from Professor McGonagall, he immediately understood the connection. Isn't this the circle of his own that he has always dreamed of? Thinking of this, Yang Tian immediately said respectfully, "I understand, Professor. I will finish the paper as soon as possible." Professor McGonagall nodded with satisfaction, her eyes filled with indescribable kindness. After dinner, Everyone went to the library to read as usual, but Yang Tian was concentrating on his paper on transfiguration, which attracted the attention of his friends. During the last Quidditch training, Yang Tian's overbearing way of handling the situation did not disgust everyone, but instead made everyone feel relieved. This kind of Yang Tian is more real and more secure. Penelope, in particular, was full of praise for Yang Tian's handling of the situation, and even looked at Yang Tian with admiration in her eyes. Decisive, ruthless, and efficient, yet able to keep the situation under control. This is Penelope's evaluation of Yang Tian's handling of the situation. In short, Yang Tian gradually became the true core of this small group. Because of this, Yang Tian's abnormal behavior immediately attracted the attention of his friends. When Yang Tian explained the whole story, everyone was completely confused. How long have you studied transfiguration? Have you made a major academic discovery in transfiguration? Why did all this seem like a dream? Penelope was even more envious of Yang Tian's joining the Transfiguration Club. You know, she is already in the 4th grade this year, but before she met Yang Tian, her transfiguration grades were good, but definitely not outstanding. After meeting Yang Tian, he originally wanted to rely on Yang Tian's guidance to make a comeback, win the favor of Professor McGonagall, and enter the Transfiguration Club. Unexpectedly, Yang Tian got in first. Hermione, the know-it-all lady, was even more unbearable. Her complex eyes, which were a mixture of frustration, resentment, and admiration, almost drove Yang Tian away. But Yang Tian didn't have time to comfort her at this time. Under the strong demands of his friends, he had to take everyone to the abandoned classroom to demonstrate and explain his new topic to everyone. Everyone was fascinated by what was being said, and was even more intoxicated by Yang Tian's explanation. When the explanation was finished, warm applause broke out in the abandoned classroom. After chatting and laughing with his friends for a while, Yang Tian was about to let Penelope start today's defense against the dark arts class, but he found that Zhang Qiu seemed absent-minded and gave people the feeling that he was forcing a smile. What's wrong? Zhang Qiu? Are you worried about something? You can tell us. I think we are trustworthy. Yang Tian asked softly. Yang Tian's question also attracted the attention of his friends, and everyone looked at Zhang Qiu. Hermione and Padma were also talking to Zhang Qiu in a low voice, seemingly trying to comfort her. After hesitating for a while, Zhang Qiu finally made up his mind and whispered, I want to quit the Quidditch team. Yang Tian frowned when he heard this and asked, why? What happened? Hearing this, Pinlo angrily said to Zhang Qiu, those people again? Why are you bothering with them? They are a bunch of troublemakers. What's going on? Yang Tian's voice had become cold, and his face showed no sadness or joy. Seeing Yang Tian's reaction, Penelope's heart started beating wildly. She had experienced this kind of superior behavior from Yang Tian many times. But the problem was that this kind of temperament was not something that most adult wizards could possess, let alone a child in his teens. Whenever something big happens, Yang Tian's unique charm always makes his friends feel safe and they calm down quickly. Penelope didn't hesitate and said directly, it's Jeremy and Ludendorff. They seem to feel that they have lost face and dare not trouble you. So after you recovered from your injury, you started to spread the word that you didn't participate in training and were more suitable for the position of seeker. It was Zhang Qiu's existence that hindered the development of the Ravenclaw Quidditch team. The funny thing is that such brainless remarks are actually very popular among students. Zhang Qiu is under too much pressure. Yang Tian slammed the table and stood up, saying angrily, it's still too light. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. However, Zhang Qiu hugged him tightly from behind, Yang Tian, don't be impulsive. I really think what they said makes sense. Your flying skills are indeed much better than mine. You are more qualified to be a seeker. I should quit. Yang Tian was so angry that he laughed. He turned around and tapped Zhang Qiu's forehead with his finger, saying, are you stupid? Are you that bad? Tell me, which seeker of each team can't you outrun? Also, have you ever asked me what position I like to play? You know I don't like being a seeker. The feeling of flying around by myself and finding the golden snitch means the end of the game makes me feel very boring, you know that. With each question Yang Tian asked, Zhang Qiu's eyes widened a little, and finally his face was full of disbelief and confusion. What on earth was going on? The friends around him burst out laughing, which made Zhang Qiu blush. Yang Tian's voice returned to its cold and clear tone again, and he said, okay, Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Zhang Qiu and Penelope hurriedly stopped Yang Tian and said, forget it. They are all classmates here. Maybe most of them don't understand the situation, so they were bewitched by Jeremy and Ludendorff and gossiped behind their backs, right? Yang Tian said helplessly, you guys, your ideas are too childish. We are not gold galleons, and we can't satisfy everyone. No matter how well you do, there will always be people who gossip about you. The simplest and most direct way to deal with this is to cut the Gordian knot. For kindness toward us, we will repay tenfold, for malice toward us, we will repay 100-fold. Penelope nodded after thinking about it, but then shook her head and said, I understand what you mean, don't be too weak. But we are girls after all, so we can't be too aggressive. Let us try to handle this matter ourselves first, and you can do it if it doesn't work. Yang Tian thought about it and could only reluctantly say, okay, you guys try it first. There's really no need to go through so much trouble. Let's cut the Gordian knot. Our time is very precious. We don't have time to waste on these gossipers. Everyone nodded in agreement except Penelope and Zhang Qiu, who shook their heads and smiled bitterly. They really did not have Yang Tian's decisiveness and courage. After talking about this, everyone quickly calmed down, and Penelope finally started teaching the defense against the dark arts class today. Chapter 93, The Sensational Effect of the Fire-Breathing Fish. In the following time, Yang Tian's life seemed calm and fulfilling on the surface, but he was extremely anxious inside. News came back from the 2.5 years of monitoring the Weasley brothers, and nothing unusual was found. The members of the Foley family who were monitoring Old Tom on Joulois Street sent a message saying that nothing unusual was found. There is no new development at Hogwarts. All lines of inquiry seem to be at a standstill. On the contrary, Hagrid has not appeared since he was ordered to go out on business last time. A week later, on Friday morning, Yang Tian's seemingly peaceful life was also disrupted. The reason was that the latest issue of Transfiguration Today magazine was released. The entire academic community was shocked. The little wizard named Yang Tian once again entered the public eye, and his name as a genius shone like a star. At the same time, a common creature called fire-breathing fish has also attracted the attention of wizards. It has become the most sought-after material for transfiguration research. Whether you are an expert in transfiguration or not, you are proud to have a fire-breathing fish. It seems that as long as you put this kind of fish in your home, your status will be immediately raised to the fullest, and you can point out the latest discoveries in transfiguration in front of your friends and colleagues. At this time, Yang Tian was eating breakfast with relish, but suddenly he felt a darkness in front of his eyes. Owls flew towards Yang Tian in a disorderly manner like dark clouds pressing down on his head, dropping one letter after another. Yang Tian was completely confused as he watched the letters falling like snowflakes and drowning him. Who was he? Where was he? What was he doing? The little wizards around him also looked at Yang Tian with strange expressions. Hermione and Padma were very smart. They quickly put away all the tableware around them, and then worked together to help Yang Tian sort out the letters. Zhang Qiu whispered to the side, "It should be your paper that has been published." After hearing this, Yang Tian nodded thoughtfully. Penelope smirked and said, "Our great genius has very little time to begin with. Now he has to write back sincerely and not hurt the supporters' letters. And be careful not to not write back, as that can be very dangerous." Seeing her friends who didn't take it seriously, Penelope lowered her voice and added mischievously, 6 years ago, a rune enthusiast solved the meaning of an ancient rune, which caused a huge sensation in the wizarding world. Supporters sent letters to express their admiration. But this enthusiast was so absorbed in his research that he didn't even read the letters. As a result, a tragedy occurred. Unexpectedly, among the pile of letters, one was actually written by the potion's master. The master was very angry because he didn't receive a reply. Do you know what happened later? The friends were attracted by the story and asked about the subsequent plot. However, Penelope said in a lower and more mysterious voice, this potion master wrote 3 letters in a row, and each letter was soaked in a different potion. After the first and second letters entered the home of the rune lover, they still did not attract attention. They were randomly piled up in the corner of the house. When the third letter entered the home of the rune lover, the smell of the first 2 letters in the house merged with the smell of the third letter and became highly poisonous. The rune lover who smelled the smell died of a ruptured intestine, and his death was extremely miserable. The friends were all shocked by this sudden ending and looked at Yang Tian with concern. Yang Tian remained unmoved and continued to eat his breakfast with a smile. Penelope was surprised and asked, "Aren't you worried?" "Haha, what do I have to worry about with you here? You don't really think I have to write all the replies myself?" Yang Tian said with a smile. "What did you say?" Penelope's tone suddenly rose 8 octaves. She originally wanted to tease Yang Tian, but why did she get herself involved? Yang Tian also answered, but looked at the other friends, "And you, don't even think about escaping. Have you forgotten the Chinese I taught you? What does it mean to share happiness and difficulties together?" Yang Tian's series of actions only earned him a look of frustration and daze from his friends. In fact, no one wanted to stand by and watch. But seeing Yang Tian's self-righteous lecturing, it was infuriating. Isn't it? After Yang Tian finished breakfast and was about to go to class, he was stopped by a tall Gryffindor senior. "Hello, my name is Angelina Johnson. I'm from Gryffindor. Professor McGonagall asked me to inform you that the Transfiguration Club's party will start at 2 p.m. on Saturday. You need to wait for me at the entrance of the Ravenclaw Common Room 1 hour in advance. I will take you to the party location. Remember to be on time." After getting Yang Tian's affirmative answer, Angelina waved goodbye to everyone and left in style. In the evening, after finishing class, Yang Tian came to the principal's office as he did every Friday night. Dumbledore was still not there. It was still Heyman who sat on the sofa with his 2 daughters waiting. Yang Tian pushed open the door and saw this scene. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Familiar recipe, familiar taste." Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. However, Heyman's face was not very good today. He looked worried and absent-minded, as if he was troubled by something. But when he looked at Yang Tian, his eyes were still gentle. The excellence of this child was obvious to all. Before Heyman could say anything, Astoria immediately transformed into a koala and hung on Yang Tian. There was no doubt that the trip to Hogwarts every Friday night had become the happiest time for this little girl. Daphne was calm on the surface, but she was deeply afraid. He was too strong, like a nightmare, invincible. If anyone could stand up and kill this bastard now, he would definitely become a hero in Daphne's heart. Yang Tian went straight to the point today and asked directly, "Uncle Heyman, you look unhappy, has something happened?" Hearing Yang Tian's question, the 2 girls were also stunned and looked at their father curiously. Heyman couldn't help but smile bitterly, patted Yang Tian's shoulder gently and said, "How did you figure that out, you clever kid? In fact, there are some problems with the major families. It is true that Yang Tian is Heyman's nephew in the next life, but among the elders who are familiar with Yang Tian, who would really treat him as a child?" Yang Tian also often participated in the talks between the Free family and the Green Grass family, and occasionally even made some very constructive comments. So when Yang Tian asked the question, Heyman answered his question very naturally. "Recently, all the major families have received news that the mysterious wizards who attacked us before are likely to have established their power in the Muggle world, so all the major families have sent out spies to investigate. But the results are not optimistic. Many families' tentacles in the Muggle world have been pulled out, and even the industries of these families in the Muggle world have been implicated. In short, it is very troublesome." At this point, Heyman frowned even more tightly. Chapter 94, Counterattack and Watching the Show. Yang Tian frowned when he heard this. While treating Astoria, he said, "Uncle Heyman, I don't quite understand. Why is this such a headache? We are wizards. Powerful and mysterious wizards. Isn't it easy for wizards to follow the clues and find the cause?" Heyman smiled even more bitterly. "It's not as easy as you say. Let's not talk about the International Statute of Secrecy. Just talking about the Muggle Protection Act that is currently being discussed and passed, you should understand the Ministry of Magic's attitude. And because of our recent actions, the Ministry of Magic has received many complaints from Muggle governments. They are really good at taking advantage of the situation." Yang Tian was almost laughing out of anger. "It's not that we don't abide by the laws of the wizarding world, but someone is trying to dig up the foundation of our wizarding world. And that unfortunate Ministry of Magic, did they complain? Now that we know that the evil organization that wants to destroy the wizarding world is in the Muggle world, is the Muggle government going to protect them? Or is this a decision made by the Muggle government itself?" Heyman said uncertainly, "This organization is so tight that the Muggle government may not know about it." Yang Tian immediately retorted, "Who cares if he knows or not? The blame must be put on him first. The problem originally occurred on their territory. They should either find out and solve the problem, or let us in and solve it ourselves. Otherwise, they just want to destroy the wizarding world. Hearing Yang Tian's shameless behavior, Hyman was completely speechless. Merlin, please forgive this little politician with an ugly face, he is still a child, Hyman thought. But Yang Tian had lost interest in continuing the conversation with Hyman. While treating Astoria, he chatted with the little girl about interesting things in Hogwarts Castle. Time passed quickly. Soon after Astoria reluctantly left Hogwarts Castle, Meng Menjiao's figure circled and flew, and quickly disappeared in Hogwarts. A few hours later, several dark figures rushed away from the Foley and Green Grass homes. In the next few days, the black-robed wizards reappeared. They moved in and out of the edge of the wizard gathering area, and only attacked solitary wizards. Although their actions such as killing and looting were not carried out due to various coincidences, the bright red cross on the white cloth on their right arms touched the hearts of every wizard. Thus, the Ministry of Magic was in tragedy. All kinds of shouting letters, all kinds of door-to-door pressure, all kinds of pointing fingers and insulting came one after another. There are also unknown brave black wizards who, unafraid of power, sneak into the Muggle world and interrogate officials at all levels about the whereabouts of the mysterious organization. Legilimency, Oblivion, Truth Serum, even the damn Imperious Curse. Well, the Muggle government is also in trouble. At 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, Yang Tian appeared at the door of the Ravenclaw common room on time, and Angelina also arrived as promised. But what Yang Tian didn't expect was that Angelina would be accompanied by the Weasley brothers, a pair who were already on Yang Tian's list of people to focus on. Ernian and Banyu have been keeping watch for many days, but I don't know if it's because the situation is too tense recently or these people are too good at acting. So far, the two brothers or the people around them have not revealed any flaws. The Marauders map had been confirmed by Banyu to be real, and it was in the possession of the brothers. However, they only used it as a safety measure for night travel. The two have a mischievous spirit burning in their hearts, and every day they are either playing pranks or on their way to playing pranks. Well, it could also be that they are making prank props. How could such a person be a member of a mysterious organization? His acting skills must be amazing. Wouldn't it be better for him to just win an Oscar? Yang Tian was speechless. However, in order not to alert the enemy, Yang Tian decided to play along and greeted them naturally. George, Fred, you are here too? Are you also a member of the Transfiguration Club? That's great, I won't be lonely at the gatherings in the future. Hey, brother, can I understand that you are teasing us? Be careful of the dung bombs. George spoke first. That's right, do you think everyone is as perverted as you? Only a pervert can get into the Transfiguration Club. Fred did not forget to tease Yang Tian. Yang Tian chuckled and turned to Angelina and asked, "Wow, I didn't know the entry requirements for the Transfiguration Club were so weird, is that right, senior?" Angelina got furious after Yang Tianyi reminded her. She looked at the two brothers with anger in her eyes. She put her hands on her waist and shouted, "What nonsense are you two talking about? Who are you calling a pervert?" The two carefree brothers finally reacted. After giving Yang Tian a look that said, "Wait for me, kid," they immediately obeyed their hearts. George hurriedly flattered, "Senior sister, that's a compliment. What I mean by abnormal is strength." "Yes, abnormal strength." Seeing Angelina's unfriendly look, Fred quickly said, "That's right, senior sister, you are the pride of our Gryffindor, how could you be a pervert? There is only one pervert here, and that's this kid." After saying that, Fred pointed his finger at Yang Tian without any doubt. Yang Tian laughed loudly and said, "You two are really amazing. You accidentally said what you really think. Now, in order to save your life, you actually betrayed your brother and used him as a scapegoat. I was wrong about you." "I'm not, I didn't, you're talking nonsense." Upon hearing the two brothers' three consecutive denials, Yang Tian laughed. It seemed that they were really panicked. Sure enough, when the two brothers turned their heads stiffly and met Angelina's murderous gaze, they suddenly made up their minds and shouted at Yang Tian, "Boy, you wait, today's matter is not over yet." After that, they jumped out like a rocket. How could Angelina let them go so easily? She chased after them in one swift step. Yang Tian was laughing so hard while watching this. He sat on his somersault cloud and hung far away. From time to time, he would take out some snacks and put them in his mouth, as if he was watching a blockbuster movie. The two brothers were strong and nimble, and soon they left Angelina far behind. But before they could be happy, a little black wizard suddenly rushed out from the corner and bumped into the two brothers. The three of them fell to the ground. "Lee Jordan, you bastard, didn't you say you wouldn't come because you were doing your history of magic homework? Why are you blocking the way here?" George took a quick look and shouted angrily. "Okay, run, they're chasing you." Fred was in no mood to ask any nonsense questions. He looked at Angelina, who was about to kill him, and shouted hurriedly. The two brothers were really panicking. They tacitly carried the confused Lee Jordan and ran away, leaving only the screams of the black little wizard echoing in the air, such as, "Hey man, what happened? Put me down, this has nothing to do with me. You two bastards, put me down. I can run by myself." Panting, Angelina finally stopped unwillingly and said bitterly, "You two are the ones who ran fast." But Yang Tian on the somersault cloud smiled and consoled them, "Don't be angry, senior sister. They have learned their lesson after chasing us all the way. They are afraid now." Angelina became even more angry when she heard his sarcastic words. She couldn't help but said angrily, "Humph, you are not a good person either." Hearing this, Yang Tian's expression froze and he looked deflated. Angelina felt relieved when she saw this. She couldn't help but burst out laughing, "Well, we have wasted so much time. We should hurry up. If we are really late, Professor McGonagall will be angry." Professor McGonagall is very reasonable. Even if she is late, it doesn't seem to have much to do with me. Humph, you are really disloyal. Do you want to give it a try? I think there will be a surprise. It must be said that the world of children is so simple. While playing and fighting, the two of them have gradually become familiar with each other, talking and laughing all the way to the party place. Chapter 95. Exclusive chairs and paperweight. The Transfiguration Club's meeting place is not hard to find. It is located near Professor McGonagall's office. However, this classroom does not have a door, rather, the door has been transformed into a wall. The way to enter is to cast a vanishing spell on the wall. When a person enters, the wall will automatically recover. After Angelina demonstrated it to Yang Tian, she led him into the party classroom. Yang Tian looked around curiously and found that the classroom was large but empty. There was only a podium standing alone at the door with a pile of parchment on it. There were even fewer people in the classroom, only 2 or 3 kittens. They were already gathered together, sitting leisurely in their respective chairs, chatting comfortably. Yang Tian looked around blankly, "Where should I go to get a chair?" Angelina laughed teasingly, "Merlin, we are in the Transfiguration Club. How dare you ask where to find a chair?" After that, she picked up a piece of parchment on the podium, and with a swish of her wand, a pink cradle covered with flowers appeared. Angelina sat on it casually and continued to tease, "Well, use parchment to turn it into anything you want, a table? A chair? It's all fine. Of course, if you can't do it, you won't have a seat." Hearing this, Yang Tian looked around again. "That's right, rocking chairs, high-backed chairs, reclining chairs, Sarko beanbag chairs, every chair is meticulously crafted and colorful. This is not a chair at all, this is the qualification certificate of the Transformation Club. If the chair I transformed is not recognized by these seniors, then do I still have the face to stay here? But what kind of chair should he transform into to gain the experience? He couldn't transform into a dragon chair, could he? However, he quickly rejected this idea, thinking of the square shape, and there were only 3 words, uncomfortable. Suddenly, an idea flashed through my mind like lightning, and that was it. Damn, I have lived 2 lives and seen a lot of good things. How can I be less creative than you little brats? He did it as he thought, but Yang Tian pulled out his ancient magic wand and waved it wildly. The magic power emitted by the wand seemed to have turned into a fine carving knife. Bearings, sprockets, bases, petals, each component was made and assembled, as if it was a whole from beginning to end, or they were intricately connected and unrelated. As Yang Tian cast the spell, the little wizards around him stopped talking to each other and silently paid attention to the situation on Yang Tian's side. With a click sound, as the last magic converter replaced the power source, a brand new space capsule luxury massage chair appeared in front of everyone. This is not all. Yang Tian's ancient magic wand began to flip up and down again. Soon, a copper 5-clawed golden dragon appeared on the massage chair, looking so lifelike. I have to say, it has a very technological and classy feel. After doing all this, Yang Tian didn't waste any words, sat in the massage chair, and directly turned on the switch. The neck, shoulders, back, waist, buttocks, thighs, calves, soles of the feet, and arms are also relaxed. Comfortable. Yang Tian couldn't help but let out an exclamation of praise. Go, let me try. Angelina couldn't wait to drive Yang Tian aside and enjoy it alone. Looking at the ups and downs of the massage chair, the little wizards opened their mouths wide and whispered to each other. But at this moment, the wall deformed again, and Professor McGonagall walked in with her usual graceful steps. Her voice came before she arrived. Children, I believe everyone has been notified. Today we will have a new member joining us, and he is. Before she finished speaking, she was attracted by the huge massage chair. Wow, Yang Tian, is this the exclusive club chair you made for yourself? Very creative. Does it have any other functions? Upon hearing this, Yang Tian quickly replied, Yes, Professor, this is a special chair I designed. I call it a massage chair, which can perform full body massage. This chair can eliminate fatigue, relieve stress, relax our body, and improve sleep quality. Professor, would you like to try it? Really? Professor McGonagall looked interested. Of course. Then he retaliated and joked to Angelina, Go away. What he got in return was naturally Angelina's iron fist greeting. Yang Tian didn't take it seriously, and happily instructed the professor, Sit here, put your hands in this groove, put your legs here. After enjoying the massage for a full 5 minutes, Professor McGonagall stood up shyly and praised, It's really good, a very novel idea. After that, he waved to everyone and said, Okay, let's get familiar with each other first. Professor McGonagall said to the 6 people in the classroom, Yang Tian, I believe everyone should know his name, the improver of the Wolfsbane potion and the improver of the fire-breathing fish transfiguration. Now everyone introduce yourselves in turn. Percy, let's start with you. Upon hearing this, a neatly dressed red-haired boy immediately stepped out of the crowd and said seriously, I'm Percy Ignatius Weasley, a 5th-year student in Gryffindor. Cedric Diggory, a 4th-year Hufflepuff. A tall and handsome boy introduced himself with a smile. Elena Shafik, a 6th-year Slytherin. A girl with silver hair and golden eyes, as cool and pure as the frosty moon on a winter night, introduced with her delicate chin raised. Violet Capet, a 6th-year student in Ravenclaw. A well-mannered, scholarly boy greeted Yang Tian in a friendly manner. Angelina Johnson, a 4th-year Gryffindor student. Angelina winked mischievously as she spoke. Now that everyone knows each other, let me first tell you 2 important things. Professor McGonagall said solemnly. First, I want to talk about Yang Tian's paper. I hope everyone will read it carefully after this party, break it down, study it carefully, and find the theoretical basis and details. Everyone knows the rules. You are not allowed to discuss with each other, and you are not allowed to ask Yang Tian for advice. We need all kinds of new ideas, and we need brainstorming. Secondly, I want to reveal that the school's idea for improving the fire-breathing fish transformation technique is to set up a special research group based on the Transfiguration Club. Of course, participation is entirely voluntary. But I would say that this is a very rare opportunity. It is very likely to open another door for us to learn transfiguration and expand the scope of transfiguration. If there is another breakthrough in the subject, Hogwarts can use this to gain a disciplinary advantage over other magic schools in the world and improve the school's overall ranking. Everyone who participates in the project will gain a lot of fame, and after graduation, they will have good promotion opportunities with this resume. Of course, the amount of fame you gain depends on your contribution to the project, so everyone should work hard. Until this moment, the students who participated in the party finally understood the importance of Yang Tian's paper. They couldn't help but cast strange glances at him, as if they were thinking about something. Chapter 96. An unintentional comprehension. Professor McGonagall didn't care about her disciples' thoughts, but unfolded a magazine called Transfiguration Today. Yang Tian peeked at the date of the magazine and found that it was published half a year ago. Professor McGonagall said gently, At this gathering, we will first discuss an exploratory article. The idea in this article is very novel, but due to the lack of supporting evidence and practical parameters, I prefer to call it a fantastic idea. This article is called The Beginning and End of the Vanishing Spell. It discusses where the objects that have been cast go after the vanishing spell is cast, or how they exist. This article should be the imagination of a fan who is obsessed with transfiguration. The reason why I bring it up for discussion with everyone is that I hope everyone can broaden their horizons and liberate their minds. Professor McGonagall's words immediately attracted the attention of the students, including Yang Tian. Although it seems that the vanishing spell is beyond the scope of Yang Tian's study, and he has not yet learned it, it does not affect his strong interest in this spell. The Vanishing Charm is a 5th-year transfiguration course. This transfiguration charm, which can make living or inanimate objects disappear, is one of the most difficult spells that appear in the ordinary wizarding level examination. The difficulty of this spell is not too difficult to learn, but when it comes to the number of people who have truly mastered the essence, there are really only a handful of people who can count on one hand. Percy spoke first, and then he raised his head proudly and continued. For example, snails, an invertebrate, are not very challenging, but mammals like mice are much more difficult. I have now completed the disappearance spell for mice, and am now pursuing the more challenging cats. To be honest, this requires talent and hard work, and I think I need to work harder. The words seemed humble, but in fact they were showing off. Elena from Slytherin glanced at Percy with dissatisfaction, and calmly brought the topic back on track. I remember Professor McGonagall said when she was teaching this lesson that things that disappear become nothingness, or in other words, everything. Later, I also guessed that nothingness and everything seem to represent zero and infinity, which are two completely opposite meanings. I was confused about this for a long time at the time. Violet took the transfiguration of the day from Professor McGonagall and read it carefully before continuing with a hint of doubt. According to the idea of this article, after the vanishing spell is cast, the object is vaporized and becomes part of the air. This statement is far-fetched. Then, Violet drew her wand and shouted at her chair, "Evanesco!" The chair disappeared instantly. Then, a restoring spell was cast, and a piece of parchment fell down. Violet said wisely, "Look, after the restoration spell, it is still the most essential parchment, not the chair. So the theory of vaporization is somewhat untenable. I think the word essence is very important. I prefer to believe that this is a constraint of the material structure. The appearance changes but the essence remains unchanged. This also conforms to the definition of transfiguration. This is the mainstream view now. But Professor, can you tell me your understanding of what Elena just said? I feel that your opinion seems to be inconsistent with the mainstream view." Angelina asked outspokenly. Everyone also looked at Professor McGonagall hopefully, waiting for her answer. It's hard to describe. Professor McGonagall seemed to be immersed in her own perception. She thought slowly and answered, "It's the wonderful feeling brought by casting the vanishing and summoning charms over the years. It's as if it has completely dissipated without a trace. But it seems to have a lot of material charm. And the restoration spell is more like, well, how to put it? Reverse time? Return to the state when it was just made. It's a feeling that is hard to describe." Everyone listened very attentively, and seemed to be experiencing that mysterious and wonderful feeling. But only Yang Tian's brain seemed to be struck by a thunderbolt. In this month, his transfiguration made rapid progress under the guidance of Professor McGonagall, and coupled with a month of reading books, the theoretical knowledge in his mind was extremely rich. However, no matter how rich the theoretical knowledge is, it is useless without practice, so his study of transfiguration still only remains on the surface and he is unable to master it. But today, the discussion about the vanishing spell was like a magic needle, threading together the previously scattered pieces of transfiguration knowledge into a perfect line. At this moment, in his mind, scenes from the beginning of the transformation of non-living things flashed like a movie. Yang Tian was stunned on the spot, his eyes were empty. After Angelina discovered something was wrong, she wanted to slap Yang Tian to wake him up, but was stopped by Professor McGonagall's stern look. As time passed, Yang Tian's empty eyes gradually focused and became brighter. Finally, an incredible glow appeared on his face. He seemed to draw out his wand unconsciously, and under the influence of the magic power in his body, the ancient wand emitted an ancient glow. The magic wand just waved lightly in the air, and a dragon bamboo appeared out of thin air, exuding vitality. With another wave, Longju instantly lowered its body, coiled and transformed into a short-nosed sea snake. With another wave, the short-beaked sea snake disappeared instantly, but it reappeared with another wave. Yang Tian waved his magic wand a little further away, and a tree-guarding bowtruckle appeared out of thin air. With the tap of the magic wand, the bowtruckle and the short-nosed sea snake kept changing and eventually turned into each other's appearance. With another tap, the bowtruckle and the short-nosed sea snake kept changing their previous appearances in reverse, and finally disappeared. Yang Tian looked at the magic wand in his hand with great enthusiasm, feeling inexplicably happy. The seniors around them opened their mouths wide, their eyes bulged, and they looked like they had seen a ghost. The two girls suddenly realized that their expressions were indecent, and they quickly controlled their expressions, but they still looked at Yang Tian like he was a monster. When Yang Tian began to cast the spell, Professor McGonagall exclaimed in a low voice as the scene changed, "Summoning spell! Transfiguration spell! Vanishing spell! Restoration spell, but why is it a snake and not a bamboo? Summoning spell! Transformation spell! What kind of spell is this? Why is it like this?" Actually the spell was cast silently the whole time. Cedric exclaimed in disbelief. Although his voice was not loud, it was like a small stone thrown into a lake, and the classroom suddenly went wild. There were only 7 people, but he shouted with the momentum of an entire class. "Merlin, what do I see? You must be kidding. What kind of spell is that at the end? I've never heard of it before. You've already learned the 5th grade curriculum? This is incredible." Chapter 97, Solving Doubts and Going to the Market. Professor McGonagall suppressed the chaotic voices of the crowd and asked in shock and excitement, "I just want to ask one question, what is the essence of disappearance?" Yang Tian smiled bitterly and replied, "Professor, this is very abstract and difficult to explain clearly in words. Can I try to explain my thoughts?" After getting Professor McGonagall's approval, Yang Tian continued, "There is a saying in the Chinese Tao Te Ching, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, 3 begets all things, and everything is from the same source. So let's assume that the source of everything is 1, and the summoning spell is the process from 1 to 2, and then to all things, the vanishing spell just turns all things back to 1, the conversion spell is the process of 2 2s or 3s replacing each other but not returning to 1. My final operation is the continuous operation of reversing all things to 2 or 3, until the final one. Origin, is it the origin? What is the origin? How can we find the origin?" Professor McGonagall murmured to himself, falling into deep thought. The seniors looked at Yang Tian with admiration. What the junior said was very mysterious, but they seemed to understand it, but they also seemed to not understand it at all. But they knew that a new door was really opening slowly to them. After pondering for a while, Professor McGonagall said as if she had realized something, "So determining this one is the key. One may be the origin, or the rule, or something else. But the method of determining this one cannot be described in words, and can only be understood by oneself. What is the Chinese saying? It can only be understood but not expressed in words. Am I right?" Yang Tian stared at Professor McGonagall in a daze, with a look of reverence on his face as he said, "Yes, Professor McGonagall, I remember when I was a child, my father told me that everyone has his or her own way, which can only be understood but not expressed in words." In fact, Yang Tian lied, but he didn't lie. For him, the so-called one is an element, belonging to various arrangements and combinations of the 5 elements. However, due to differences in cultivation methods, wizards cannot see the existence of elements in person, and can only perceive them vaguely like Professor McGonagall. Therefore, there is no difference between telling and not telling. In this case, he, who has lived 2 lives, will naturally not tell this secret. After all, a man is innocent but guilty of possessing a treasure. If this incident really caused some malicious people to covet China's cultivation techniques, then Yang Tian would be doomed to die. But even in the case of being unable to explain it clearly, Professor McGonagall can still vaguely sense its existence through her daily accumulation. It has to be said that she is gifted. Professor McGonagall readily accepted Yang Tian's explanation. She was usually serious but she said excitedly, "Yes, today is really a rare day. I unexpectedly discovered a more subtle law of transfiguration. Perhaps it can be called microscopic transfiguration. It's the same for you, Yang Tian. Today's opportunity is equally rare for you. I have no doubt that you will understand everything today as you gain a deeper understanding of transfiguration in the future. But I don't think it will happen so soon. And I have a feeling that today's micro-transfiguration may be of great help to the fire-breathing fish project we are about to launch. You can try to explore in this direction," Professor McGonagall said enthusiastically. Yang Tian agreed with Professor McGonagall's point of view and nodded quickly. At the same time, he asked, "I know the direction of exploration, but I don't know much about my current progress in transfiguration. What should I learn next? Should I continue to study the transformation of living things into non-living things? Professor McGonagall looked at Yang Tian with appreciation and said, "Since you can ask this question, I believe you have already realized your changes to some extent. Let me put it this way. After today, in the Transfiguration course at Hogwarts, your weakness will be in the advanced transfiguration. For example, trans-species transformation and human transformation. Human body deformation also includes animagus and metamorphomagus. As for cross-species transfiguration, your weakness is still your analysis of advanced species. For example, you want to transform a piece of wood into a niffler, but you only know the niffler's appearance but have no idea about its internal structure. Then your spell will inevitably be short-lived, or even fail. As for other aspects of transfiguration, it can be said that you have mastered them thoroughly. If you don't believe me, you can read the relevant books. You will find that these books will not be difficult for you at all. So my suggestion is that you should start your studies from these two aspects. Of course, the analysis of advanced species requires more accumulation and massive reading. And my individual lessons for you will start from the direction of human deformation." Professor McGonagall's in-depth and easy-to-understand explanation made Yang Tian fully aware of his own weight and put his mind at ease. So he thanked her repeatedly and returned to his seat to act like a good boy. After that, the classroom returned to the atmosphere of heated discussion. Yang Tian liked this feeling very much, which was quite similar to his own study group. Even Professor McGonagall put aside her usual strictness and chatted with everyone. This time, the party ended hastily until almost dinner time, and everyone felt that they had not yet finished. After a quick dinner, Yang Tian hurried to the astronomy tower. Today was the day when Professor Sinistra of astronomy was giving him a private lesson. Although Yang Tian was temporarily unable to further practice astrology, the professor had been teaching him theoretical knowledge in private. As a successor recognized by Sinistra and an awakened being, it was normal for him to have private lessons. However, the professor was puzzled by the fact that Yang Tian did not practice astrology diligently, and he was quite critical of it, thinking that he was wasting his talent. Yang Tian was helpless and could only explain that astrology and his Chinese cultivation method were mutually exclusive. Only when his Chinese cultivation method made a breakthrough could he continue to cultivate, otherwise his body would suffer serious damage. Although what he said was true, he did not specify the specific details. Hearing the seriousness of the situation, Sinistra gave up the idea of letting Yang Tian practice quickly. But the professor would not relax at all on the theoretical knowledge, 3 times a week, 1 hour each time. Fortunately, Yang Tian was also really interested in astronomy, so the two of them hit it off immediately, one taught seriously and the other learned enthusiastically. And today, the little guy finally told Professor Sinistra the good news: after Christmas, he can basically continue to practice stargazing. The professor was in a good mood after hearing this and let Yang Tian go back to rest early. Yang Tian didn't act pretentiously and actually went back to the dormitory to sleep. Chapter 98. The fishing plan begins. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Yang Tian suddenly opened his eyes, packed up briefly, and quietly came to the common room, where a pretty girl had already been waiting. Who else could it be but Penelope? At this moment, she was leaning on the sofa, flipping through a book leisurely. Seeing Yang Tian coming, Penelope was not surprised at all. Instead, she quickly stepped forward and asked softly, "Can we start the action?" Yang Tian nodded calmly and said, "No problem, everything is ready. How about you? Have you cut all the grass you need to cut?" Penelope said confidently, "Don't worry, everyone on the list has vaguely heard a little funny thing. Our great genius Yang is restless again. Now we have to see which snake with ulterior motives will be startled." The two smiled at each other and walked straight to the door of the lounge. But the next moment, Hermione's voice came faintly, "What are you two doing? I noticed something was wrong with you two today. You kept whispering to each other." And after Yang Tian met Professor Sinistra, he hurried into the dormitory to sleep. This is too abnormal. Now it seems that there is indeed a problem. The two of them were startled, and then smiled bitterly at each other. If they were to talk about who they least wanted to be discovered by this action, it would definitely be Hermione. This little girl is not only cunning, but also always wants to get to the bottom of things when encountering a problem. What's more embarrassing is that she is also very observant of school rules. However, the two of them will not back down. Now that the arrow has been shot, how can they retreat? Without Yang Tian saying anything, Penelope said earnestly, "Hermione, you should be very clear about how dangerous Yang Tian's current situation is, right?" Just one sentence was enough to stop little Hermione, who was about to give a lecture. Looking at Hermione, who opened her mouth in bewilderment, Penelope continued, Yang Tian's subordinates have been in Hogsmeade for quite some time, but the mastermind has not yet appeared. How long can they stay? Once these people withdraw, these bastards will soon attack Yang Tian again. Hermione was also startled when she heard this, and looked at Yang Tian with a worried look on her face. But after a moment, her expression changed drastically and she asked, It's so dangerous, why are you still going out for a night tour so late? Penelope was not panicked at all. Instead, she said more seriously, It seems that you really didn't remember much of the Chinese language that Yang Tian taught us. Have you forgotten what it means to alert the enemy? Hermione's pretty face flushed from being bullied, but she still hesitated and said, But this is against school rules. Of course we have considered this, but the problem now is that there is no better way, and we don't have time. Yang Tian responded with a serious face, his attitude indescribably firm. Okay then, I agree with this plan, but I have one request. You must take me with you. Hermione's expression was firm and she would not tolerate any questioning. The two smiled bitterly at each other, but agreed helplessly. In a blink of an eye, the three of them left the common room quietly. In fact, Yang Tian's plan to scare the enemy tonight was also a gamble, betting on how much the other party valued him. It would be great if it succeeded, but even if it failed, he must take advantage of this night tour to take over the restricted book area. That's right, it's the restricted books area. Over the past month, he had been tirelessly browsing books in the library in his spare time, and he was about to finish reading half of the books in the library. But he had never seen any of the books in the forbidden area. How could Yang Tian, who was hungry for magical knowledge, bear this? Whether to study or not was not an issue, but we had to have some, right? Emptying the Hogwarts library had always been his great ambition. Yang Tian always believed that whether it is black magic or white magic, they are all part of the magic puzzle. Only by understanding both the positive and negative sides of a thing can we distinguish the true from the false and find the most essential things in magic. Yang Tian had also discussed with his family and decided to return to China during the Christmas holidays to visit his ancestors. Therefore, he was eager to scan all the books in the library into the intelligent brain before returning home for vacation, including the books in the banned area. This would also put his mind at ease. Thinking of this, Yang Tian no longer hesitated, drew out his wand, tapped it, and said softly, Disillusionment. Yang Tian's body gradually changed color like a chameleon, and finally became completely consistent with the surrounding environment. Wow, that's a good disillusionment charm. I didn't expect you to be so proficient at it. Penelope said, and cast 2 disillusionment charms, hitting Hermione and herself respectively. The two of them quickly disappeared. Oh my god, it seems I have to master this spell quickly. It's okay that Senior Penelope knows it, but Yang Tian, when did you learn it? Haha, you don't know me yet? You have to think things through carefully. Of course, the failure of the last night tour was due to conspiracy, but I also have my own problems. I spent a lot of time summing up the lessons of the failure. It turned out that the biggest problem was that I didn't know how to disillusionment charm. If I had learned this earlier, Filch would have been exhausted and he wouldn't have been able to find me. Humph. Hey, I told you were fat and you're out of breath. How can it be so glorious to violate school rules? It's a pity that Senior Penelope always speaks on your side. Hermione immediately quit. You two can bicker if you want, but don't bring me into this. What have I done to offend anyone? But having said that, little Hermione, this is not right. It is said that life at Hogwarts is definitely incomplete without a night out. Remember this. Yang Tian, I remember you told me on the train that only Gryffindor students are willing to go out at night. Nonsense, I clearly said that they liked it more, I didn't say that others didn't like it. You are changing the concept. Nonsense again, I'm clearly stating the facts. At around 2 a.m. in the empty corridor of Hogwarts, the three of them chatted and laughed in low voices as they headed towards the library. The three of them arrived at their destination without any trouble along the way. Yang Tian did not stop at all. After pushing open the door of the library, he went straight to the area behind the library. A long rope was right in front of him. It was this rope that separated the ordinary area of the library from the forbidden book area. Yang Tian, do we really have to go in? Just as Yang Tian and Penelope were about to enter, their arms were tightly held by Hermione. Hermione, just wait here obediently, we will be back soon. Yang Tian answered gently but firmly. Then I'd better go with you. Since we're here, we might as well see it all. Hermione seemed to have made up her mind and completely let herself go. Okay, but you must follow us closely, be determined, and tell me immediately if you feel any discomfort. And Penelope, you take care of her. Yang Tian made a decision quickly. Chapter 99, Horror in the Forbidden Area. After no more questions, Yang Tian quickly led the two women to the first bookshelf in the forbidden area. He did not rush to flip through the books, but took out a pair of dragon leather gloves and put them on, drew out his wand, and then carefully pulled out a book. This is not the end. The book was pulled out, and Yang Tian's spells also arrived. Explosion protection spell, ear blocking spell and a series of other defensive magics were all cast. What's interesting is that this ear clogging spell was found in Professor Snape's notebook. Now that he has it for himself and is using it to do bad things, Yang Tian feels a sense of accomplishment. Penelope is also not idle, with armor protecting her, obstacles in place, and safeguarding. As long as it is useful, we will do our best. After everything was ready, Yang Tian began his journey of flipping through books, Powerful Potion, Emotions and Magic, Secret of Bloodline, the most toxic magic. He read through them one by one, and it really didn't take too much time. Just as Yang Tian was concentrating on the task of scanning books, a heavy sigh suddenly sounded in his mind, and Yang Tian's mood seemed to dim in an instant, as if he had lost all interest in life. Before he could react, another hysterical laugh exploded in Yang Tian's heart. His eyes suddenly turned blood red, and the ancient magic wand appeared silently in his hand, and the tip of the wand, which was filled with violent magic power, was pointing at his head. The horrific scene was suffocating. It seemed as if his life would end under his own magic wand in the next moment. At this critical moment, the spiritual jade pendant on Yang Tian's chest suddenly emitted a milky white light, and a stream of clear water flowed from his chest straight into his mind. After a moment, his hysterical face cleared up. Yang Tian reacted and felt scared, but he had no time to feel sentimental. Instead, he took out the meditation cushion and sat on it without hesitation. It was not until this moment that all the discomfort in his body completely disappeared. Yang Tian secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and when he was about to turn back to comfort the two girls, he was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. However, they were in even worse condition than before, and they had even begun chanting magic spells in a low voice. Yang Tian was really anxious. With his mind still clear, he quickly used the disarming spell to knock away the two girls' wands, and even pulled the two girls with red eyes in front of him. The three of them immediately huddled together. Faced with such a strange attack, he really had no other choice but to hope that the protection range of the meditation cushion could cover the two women. After a while, Yang Tian's worried expression gradually eased. Although they were not sitting on the futon, the two girls slowly regained consciousness, and the redness in their eyes gradually faded until it disappeared completely. Recalling what happened just now, the two women were horrified. Penelope said worriedly, "Yang Tian, this place is too weird, let's retreat quickly." Then she wanted to get up with Hermione. Yang Tian hurriedly shouted, "Don't move. If that broken book has a more bizarre way of attack, we will be in danger." The two women were also shocked when they heard this, and dared not move at all. Yang Tian lowered his head and thought for a long time before he spoke again, "Now you must hold on to me, I want to find where the broken book that attacked us is. When I stand up, you must stay as close to this meditation cushion as possible, and don't get thrown off, it's very dangerous." The two women didn't say anything, but they held Yang Tian's shoulders tightly, which was a silent answer. Yang Tian did not dare to delay any longer and stood up immediately. After a brief sense, he grabbed a grey book and pulled it out quickly. The moment his hand touched the book, a misty fog suddenly appeared on the grey book, and the fog penetrated into his body through Yang Tian's fingers and rushed into his brain frantically. Delicious, eat, tear, play. Words, accompanied by crazy tones, kept exploding in his mind. The grey mist also transformed into hideous and bloodthirsty faces, as if they wanted to bite everything in front of them to pieces. Yang Tian's head suddenly sank, and he fell back onto the cushion in a state of unconsciousness. The meditation cushion and the spiritual jade pendant seemed to sense the presence of their mortal enemy, and they emitted milky white light one after another, directly hitting Yang Tian's brain. The white light of the Lingzhen jade pendant was like a spell, which was fired later but arrived first, and exploded directly in the center of the bloodthirsty face. The bloodthirsty ugly face was blown into powder, and finally returned to the grey misty gulf stream like waves in the river. The white light of the meditation cushion was more like river water, which washed away the grey mist wave after wave, and the grey mist gradually faded at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a long time, it finally turned into white mist without a trace of impurities, lying quietly in Yang Tian's mind without any trace of life. Yang Tian was really scared of these unknown things. He even wondered if he had gotten carried away again recently. Otherwise, why would he be so desperate and bring two girls to seek death in the middle of the night? If he hadn't been sober today, and hadn't had a big heart that had experienced two lives, and hadn't had that little bit of illusory luck, he might have really died, and the two little ones who followed him wouldn't have had a good ending either. The more Yang Tian thought about it, the more scared he became. At the same time, he was more eager to get the white mist out of his mind. But after thinking it over, he found that he was actually helpless. In a hurry, Yang Tian acted recklessly and used his soul power to push the white mist out of his mind. What a coincidence! When his soul power came into contact with the white mist rushed over like a wanderer who had not returned home for a long time, and completely stuck to his soul. Yang Tian watched helplessly as the huge ball of white mist merged with his soul. Every time a bit of the fusion took place, he would hear hysterical screams from different voices, whether male or female, old or young, in his mind, at the same time, unbearable pain that made him tremble all over his body. If these were still within his tolerance, then the horrific memories would cause him to feel intense physical discomfort. The bloody old man was tied to the worn-out long table, and the deformed sharp knife regularly cut across his body. Every time it was cut, the exhausted old man's body would tremble and emit a barely audible roar. The emotionless cold eyes read the old man's brain and took notes from time to time. 3,947 scratches, left calf vein, non-vital, depth 5 mm, soul increase 0.00001. 3,948 scratches, left calf Achilles tendon, non-fatal, depth 0.5 cm, soul growth 0.0002. Similar scenes happened one after another, with different criminal laws and different characters. The only thing that was the same was perhaps the cold gaze and cold records. Yang Tian was numb, and he felt his stomach churning violently. Even though he was used to seeing death, he couldn't accept the scenes in his mind. But these scenes quickly merged with his soul along with the white mist, and eventually became a part of his memory, extremely clear. Even the hysterical screams or the unbearable pain could not make him forget even a little bit. When the last wisp of white mist finally merged, all the visions in Yang Tian's mind disappeared in an instant, as if everything before was an illusion. Only the pain in his whole body and the stomach discomfort reminded him that everything before was real. Chapter 100. Ending an encounter. Without the protection of the grey mist, the books became extremely dilapidated, as if they would fall apart with the slightest touch. Yang Tian knew that he had to record all the contents of the book as soon as possible, otherwise he would probably not have any chance. He had a hunch that this book might be the key to solving today's strange events, and might even allow him to take a big step forward on his path of magic. But at this time, his condition was extremely bad, his whole body was in unbearable pain, and his body didn't even have a trace of strength. But how could he give up? He reluctantly took off the dragon leather gloves and handed them to Hermione, then said weakly, "Put them on, and turn the pages of this book to me quickly." Seeing Yang Tian in such a bad state, Hermione immediately became angry. "You are already in such a terrible state, what are you still looking at? Come back next time. Hurry." Yang Tian answered firmly, without allowing any doubt. Looking at Yang Tian's resolute attitude, Hermione could only sigh and act according to Yang Tian's instructions. Hermione quickly flipped through the old and thick book. Yang Tian didn't remember much, he just wanted to input it into the intelligent brain, but the handwritten title and author's name on the book left a deep impression on him. Book title, Deep in the Soul. Author, Despicable Helpo. Is it the dastardly Herpo the Foul, who claims to be one of the first known dark wizards? How could Yang Tian have the energy to think more at this moment? He should wait until his body recovers before studying all this. Although the book was very thick, Hermione, who was worried about Yang Tian's health, flipped the pages very quickly. In just a few minutes, she had turned to the last page of Deep in the Soul. As Hermione slammed the book shut, it seemed to have completed its mission. It finally couldn't bear the weight and broke into pieces, then turned into powder and floated in the air. The three little ones were all stunned, especially Yang Tian, who was extremely grateful and secretly applauded his own wise decision. But as he relaxed his mind, a feeling of fatigue came over him, and Yang Tian seemed unable to bear it, and he became drowsy. Penelope was also frightened by what happened tonight. Even though the danger had passed, she still couldn't help trembling and getting anxious. Looking at Yang Tian's condition, she became even more anxious and said, "Don't just stand there, retreat quickly. Perhaps Hermione really has the brave attribute of Gryffindor." Seeing the extremely weak Yang Tian, she calmed down instead and arranged the cleanup work step by step. "I will remove the traces. Senior Penelope, don't forget the disillusionment charm. Yang Tian, can you still cast spells? If you can, cast an mute charm for us." After taking a look at Yang Tian's condition, he said, "Forget it, let's try to keep the noise down. We need to be more careful later." Don't forget that Yang Tian was caught when he thought he had accomplished his mission last time during his night tour. Penelope was also shocked when she heard this, and quickly thought carefully and added some details. At this time, her cheeks were slightly red. After all, she was a senior, so was her ability to cope with situations and her psychological qualities so poor? But now is not the time to reflect on oneself. After the two girls packed up everything, they supported Yang Tian and returned to the Ravenclaw common room safely. As soon as the sun rose in the morning, Yang Tian, who had already formed a biological clock, woke up on time. He moved his body slightly, and although it was still painful, he felt that there was no problem with slight movement. Last night, he was exhausted and fell asleep as soon as he got back to bed. He didn't even have the energy to check his physical condition, so now he was busy checking it out. Yang Tian first checked the brain that had suffered the most last night. After just a quick check, he found something different. The memory of the suspected despicable Helbo had completely merged with his original memory and became a part of his memory. He could easily tell that it did not belong to him, but he could call it at will. This memory is extremely large and involves all aspects. It can be said that this is the first half of a middle-aged wizard's life experience, his methods of dealing with things, and various experiences and concepts related to magic. Yang Tian even had a feeling that many of the doubts he had in his previous studies were solved with the addition of this memory. But there was also a bigger problem. Perhaps the owner of this memory lived too long ago, so the magic system in the memory was not completely compatible with his current magic system, and it could even be said that there were major differences. This also made him more confused. When faced with such a situation, Yang Tian didn't have any good solution. He could only hope to read more materials in the future and acquire more knowledge to complete the answer. While thinking about it, Yang Tian accidentally looked out the window. He saw an evil bird staring at him on the windowsill, with unspeakable resentment in its eyes. Who else could it be if it wasn't his Banyu? Yang Tian jumped up from the bed with a start, opened the window in a hurry, and then hurriedly carried Banyu in. Banyu was so angry. She finished the work at 3 in the morning, but was locked outside the window by the unscrupulous owner for a whole night. Where could she go to seek justice? Fortunately, Yang Tian's methods were not underestimated. He used 2 handfuls of Banyu's favorite miracle fruit to barely gain its forgiveness and take back the panoramic telescope from it. Well, gaining forgiveness is the key, and the panoramic telescope was definitely taken back by the way. This telescope was given to him by Penelope. Yang Tian had also seen it in the original book. It was a magical instrument, equivalent to the binoculars used by Muggles. However, since it is specifically used for watching Quidditch matches, this type of telescope has additional functions, such as recording game images, replaying or slowing down the game, providing game analysis, etc. Yang Tian gave this thing to Banyu, of course not to watch Quidditch, but to use it as a camera to record everything that happened in the Weasley brothers' dormitory. Looking at the time, Yang Tian had no time to watch the video content. He endured the severe pain all over his body. After a simple wash, he got on the somersault cloud and flew out of the dormitory in a hurry. As expected, Hermione and Penelope were already sitting on the sofa in the common room, staring at the entrance to the boys' dormitory. When he appeared, the 2 girls cheered in relief. Yang Tian also smiled with relief, but what he didn't expect was that Zhang Qiu was also sitting next to Penelope, looking at him with resentment. Yang Tian did not explain much, but just smiled apologetically at Zhang Qiu and said, "Let's go to the old place first to see if there is any unexpected gain last night." The 3 girls were also very concerned about this matter, so they stopped talking and followed Yang Tian to the abandoned classroom.